New mock draft just dropped. We have trades.
Welcome back to the James and Dame Show. I'm Josiah.
And I'm Will.
And this will be our second mock draft of the 2025
draft.
draft. Yeah.
This will be our 2.0, and this time we have trades. We're going to utilize some trades, and I can see a few. I'm interested to see how much this actually shifts because I don't see too many, but
No,
maybe.
there's possibilities.
But do we want to just get into it then?
Might as well. And I'm curious to see what we'll do this time because I know the last time that was no trades. And I think we did pretty well with no trades.
Yeah, but the reality is there will be trades.
Yep.
There's always trades.
There will always be a trade.
There's trades, there's trends, there's runs, and
then there's stupid picks in the draft.
Yeah, so yeah, we have trades. Interesting to see how things will differ. But do we want to get into it with number one, which
I don't think, yeah, we can go to the number one. I don't think this one will
I don't think this changes. I think this is one of the most locked in. So the Titans had originally had the intention of meeting with Shedeur Sanders in a private workout sort of thing. That's a very common thing with teams, especially with first rounders. They hold private workouts to kind of gauge how they feel. But after his pro day, both unanimously decided they don't need to, which, could be viewed as like, some people view it as, they saw enough, they thought he was good enough. If you're putting this much stock into a number one overall pick, you usually want to get to know them as well as you can. So I think this is kind of a sign that it's not going to at least be Shedeur. And if it's anyone, if it's quarterback, it's probably Cam Ward. Otherwise, you get one of the other two monsters on the defensive side. But yeah. I still think this is Cam Ward, personally.
Yeah, I'm getting kind of sticking with Cam Ward, just looking at all the possibilities. I don't think Shedeur will be number one. There's too much at play right now, especially with the possible trades that will happen. I don't think that will happen. So, yeah, I'm cool with Cam Ward sticking with number one. So, yeah. Unless you have an opposition to that, I guess.
No, I think if it was anyone, it would be Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
But, no, I would say Cam Ward.
So, now we have the Browns.
And
this is where I'm probably going to make my first trade.
Really? I'm curious. I'll hear you out on this one. I'll hear you out.
I don't know why. But there was something that I saw. I believe it was, yes. For some reason, it caught my eye. And I know for a fact they don't really need this. But at the same time, kind of. The Browns trade with the Bears. And the Bears get Abdul Carter.
Oh.
That is something I've seen. Probably not going to happen ever. I sat there looking at that thing for like 5 minutes, thinking I could see it.
I think that's interesting because I can see the Bears as a potential trade up team. They're either a trade up or a trade down. I don't think they're gonna. I don't find it too likely they pick a 10.
Stay where they are.
I don't think they trade all the way up to 2, mostly because I don't think the Browns are in a position. I don't think the Browns realistically would give up the choice of Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter. Or Shedeur. If they want Shedeur, it's going to be Shedeur here, and they're not going to move. Yeah. But if it's Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, I don't think they'd move. So me personally, I don't see them being someone who moves. I see some teams further down, but I saw this more as you pick your bet who you like more between Abdul Carter and Travis Hunter.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I said that it's something I saw. I sat with it, thought about it a little bit, not quite sure yet. It's an interesting concept. I do like the idea of the Bears trading up. Don't think it'd be this high though.
I don't.
I just saw people were like, "Hey, Bears get Abdul Carter." I'm like, in what world will that happen? Don't know.
I don't even think that's who they have their eyes set on.
No, I don't think they do.
Um,
That's why I said I don't think that's their first pick.
I will say I think the Browns likely would stay here, and I think it comes down to Carter, Hunter, Shadur, and right now I don't think it's Shadur. I
No.
think you're looking at Carter or Hunter. Hunter, who provides the versatility of both offense and defense, and they could use a receiver and a corner. But I think you can't pass up, if you're the Browns, a chance to pair Abdul Carter with Myles Garrett. So I have recently been really liking Abdul Carter to the Browns here.
Okay, and I'll agree with you on that one. It's just I just wanted to throw that out in the universe. That's something I've been seeing, and I'm just like, I don't know.
Bears all the way up to 2 would be,
That's insane.
yeah. I don't.
I can see them trading up for Abdul Carter though.
Abdul Carter. If you're the Browns right here, I don't think you give up your pick of Travis Hunter or Abdul
No.
Carter. So
It's too much.
I think this one though, I like Abdul Carter here. So we'll go there, and then the Giants. We'll keep this one short and sweet because I think it still comes.
This one's kind of
So there's
them.
two things because a lot of people have been still mocking Shadur to the Giants, and they've made the point that the Giants, while they do have, they have Russ on a 1 year and Jameis on a 2 year. Neither of those are the guy of the future. I don't think Shadur is the guy of the future. I think Shadur is a guy you can plug and play now. And with Russ and Jameis, you have at least 2 years covered.
Yeah.
So I think, if anything, they get a guy later in the draft. And there's so much depth in this quarterback class that you can get someone who could develop into a starter.
Yeah. And that's why I'm very comfortable with the idea of Travis Hunter going here.
Oh, they would.
That's something I've been thinking about for a while now. And I'm just like, I don't see Travis Hunter going many places besides maybe the Browns and Giants. Outside of that, it doesn't make sense to me, especially with everyone else currently there and other teams' needs. If you pass up on Travis Hunter, specifically the Giants right now,
For Shadur,
I'm going to be mad at you.
I would too. So
I wouldn't say Penix mad, but I'll be upset with you.
yeah, I'm just going to be honest. This is how I've seen at least for like the past week or so. This is how I see it logically going: is Ward, Abdul Carter, and Travis Hunter, top 3. So I have Hunter here going here. I don't see it being Shadur, and Shadur's the only other option I think for the Giants here. So Hunter goes here, and this is where I think it gets interesting because Patriots are a potential trade down candidate in my eyes.
I do agree with that. And that's, I know, I already talked about the Bears. I knew for a fact that one of these top 5 picks, at the very least, one of them is going to trade down. I didn't know who, though. That's why I said throwing out the Browns just because I just saw it recently and it makes sense, but whatever. Patriots I think are probably the most likely to trade down, I'd say, out of the top 5.
I think there are 2 very likely teams, and it comes down to which one comes down to the Patriots here, because the Patriots, you just missed out. Like, you missed out on Abdul Carter, Travis Hunter. Those are your big hype guys. If you stay, it's for a lineman, but these guys can fall, especially with the hype around some of these guys. And the way I've seen it recently, I think they move down here. They trade down with the Bears, and the Bears trade up to jump the Raiders to take Ashton Genty. Is the move I see here, because I think they first round Bears, they have addressed O-line.
Yeah.
They've worked up the defense.
Yeah.
You got these key pieces, and you just really like Ashton Genty, but
They do need a starting running back, like a number one.
You're a couple picks down from the Raiders, and you're concerned about the Raiders. And I think there are a few teams that could trade up here. I think it could be Raiders. I think it could be Bears, or it could be Cowboys. I don't think Cowboys make the aggressive move.
Cowboys are not going to be aggressive.
But I think the Raiders could also move up here to just try and secure that. And I think that looks more appealing to the Patriots, but I think the Bears have more to offer. So I viewed it as the Bears or Raiders, really. But I think the Patriots move down here to screw over the other trade down team because they can wait a little bit for a tackle, an O-lineman, because I think that's what they look at.
I'm going to say Genty to the Raiders have always been kind of in my mind for a while, but to the Bears, that's an idea I haven't really dwelled on a whole lot. Not because I don't think it's going to happen. It's just I've been so set on the Raiders for a while that I've just kind of forgotten about every other team.
And it's a thing. If he falls to him, I think they take him. But it's this kind of value where it's like these really key pieces are going, and the Patriots just again missing out on Carter and Hunter. They're looking to shop. Is how I think they look at this, and it's gonna. I think this comes down to if that happens, it's going to be a bidding war between the Raiders and the Bears.
Because the Raiders basically need almost every position.
Well, they could use some weapons.
Yeah.
Bears O-line and a running back would be really nice.
They don't need much. So I'm going to have to agree with you. The Bears, just for security reasons, they might jump up and get Genty.
But yeah, so Bears move up with some package of picks, and I think they just go Ashton Genty here.
It's fair.
Plain and simple. I think that's the only reason why you move up. You can wait for a tackle, but I don't think they want to wait for a tackle. I think they want to take a running back and just shore up that offense. So
indeed,
they get Genty, and the Jaguars come up, and they were actually my other potential trade down team.
Okay.
Because I think they're also just looking for picks, and they potentially could, but I think the advantage they had was being that one spot over the Raiders. And so, obviously, I think Mason Graham is a really good pick for them here.
Yeah.
But they're kind of in a position where maybe they want to look to trade down. The issue is, again, with the Bears moving up, taking Ashton Genty, I don't know that anyone is jumping at the gun to kind of get up here.
No. If that happens with Ashton Genty, I'm not going to make Jacksonville go down.
I will say the one piece of leverage that they could get is, and this could really screw the Raiders, because I think the Raiders are probably looking at two things right now, and that's a running back or a receiver. Mm-hmm. And so I could see someone like the Panthers trading up with the Jaguars to get Tedero McMillan.
Ooh,
but
okay.
I don't know if there's enough intrigue, and I think honestly the Jaguars just miss out, and I think they're probably just going to stick with Mason Graham.
Yeah, I mean, he's right there, and you've always needed defensive tackles, especially after.
I think this would be. Whatever. I think this would still be really nice for them. Like, you miss out, but you're not really missing out because you get to.
You're still getting the value of whatever picks you're going to get. I feel like it doesn't matter what they do get.
I do like Graham here. I've seen some things about them looking at other positions, but I think Graham kind of shoring up that middle is really good for them here. And I think the Panthers, with enough on the board, they're okay just sitting. So I say Jaguars take Graham here. And the Raiders come on, and I don't think they're going to move.
No.
I think
where they are.
I think they just want to get that sort of game changer that they need. And I'm thinking, again, McMillan is a really good option, I think, for them. Maybe they look at Golden.
I think McMillan fits the Raiders more.
Well,
I like what he does.
You do. You have that kind of big-bodied receiver again, and you're putting him in with Geno and that new Pete Carroll offense. So how things shift is going to be interesting, but it is a new era and a new regime, and I think McMillan kind of fits Pete Carroll's offense a little bit more.
Especially with Pete Carroll also working with DK Metcalf and other big body receivers in the past. I think he does a decent job with them. I think McMillan can flourish under Pete Carroll's regime.
Absolutely.
Just curious to see how that all works this time around.
Absolutely. So McMillan up at 6, and then the Jets come on the board. And I think with missing out on, because I know before we had Mason Graham.
Yep.
I think with it not being Mason Graham here, I think you look at offensive line
Yep.
rather than
Yep.
defensive line. I think
Campbell and Membu here.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of insider rumors being towards Membu for the Jets.
Really?
I know Campbell has a little bit more concerns with his arm length, which is a thing actually with the tackles, and I think you get Membu and put him opposite of Fashanu, who they picked up last year, and you really shore up that O-line. And that kind of is building a foundation for your rebuild going forward. So I kind of like Membu here.
Okay. I'm good with either one. I think they're both really good. I do agree with Campbell's arm length.
And the thing is, it's not even just, it's been inconsistencies with his measurements.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's, what's the measurement? 33 inches is around where they want, NFL teams want a tackle to have that length. And otherwise, usually anything shorter than that, you usually aren't playing tackle, you're playing guard or anywhere interior. So, and there's always exceptions to every rule, but I think if they're looking for a tackle, you see someone who might have that discrepancy, and you might lean towards Membu just because of that. It's the tiny things.
It's always the tiny things, bro.
So Membu here at 7.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
And then we get the Panthers, and
so Will Johnson.
I think Will Johnson is a potential option, but I really liked the idea of them looking at edge, and
okay,
I think, or just D lineman in general, best defensive player maybe, and someone who I've seen. I think the range that I've heard for him is 8 to 20s. It could be the upwards of 8 down to the 20s. But I've even seen him as far as 5 would be someone like Jalen Walker, who just has that versatility to play off ball and edge. I think if he can fill that role, I think he does a number for them. I think there's a lot of people this could be depending on how the board falls, but I think with Jalen Walker, I think he's the most exciting pick for the Panthers here. And yeah, I mean, I think we've learned from years past that the exciting pick is the pick for the Panthers. So I see Jalen Walker here personally.
All right.
So take Jalen Walker there, and then the Saints come on the board. And I will say I've seen them take a lot of different things. And
this is one of the ones where I'm unsure of.
Yeah, they're honestly in a position where I think almost could trade down, but I don't see.
You think they pick best off board?
Best off the board. Okay, here's the thing I will say. I think there's pressure for someone to move up here. And I think the Saints are sitting in a spot where they can move down.
Okay. Who do you think would move up, though?
With Membu off the board and the Patriots about to pick, I feel like either before or after the Patriots, someone's going to try and make a move for a tackle before they're all gone.
Do you think Miami moves up here?
I could see Miami moving up. But
because I know the Cowboys won't be aggressive unless some random thing happens this year. But I can see the Dolphins moving.
Yeah, I could see the Dolphins moving up. And normally, I feel like we don't see too much of moving up for tackles as much. But I feel like this year we're going to see something different.
Someone's going to be under pressure to move. And
so,
I think it's going to be one of these guys.
I think the funny thing, I think there's going to be something funny that happens here. But I think the Dolphins try and move up over the Patriots to secure their tackle of choice. I don't think they need tackle, but I think if they have their eyes on someone they want, and I really like the idea of him going here,
Yeah.
I think they move up here. So Dolphins trade up here, and I think they look at tackle. But I think the funny thing to me is the fact that I don't think they even take Campbell.
No.
I think they actually trade up and they take Kelvin Banks because I think they like him a little bit more. And I feel like that concerns with Campbell's arm length and such, I think there's concerns that they'll have there. And as talented as he is, I feel like Kelvin Banks fits more what they want, and they know that, and they trade up to secure Banks here. So I actually like Kelvin Banks here for the Dolphins.
Yeah. I agree with that one. Campbell, great player. There's always concerns about certain players, and he just has a glaring one that some are a little nervous to exploit, I guess. So yeah, I'm cool with Kelvin Banks going here.
Kelvin Banks, and then the Patriots get to sit there. They've traded back and gone through a little bit of nerve-wracking, but they get to sit there and still take Will Campbell at 10.
Yeah, I mean, they get a tackle.
They get exactly the guy they were looking for. I think, unless they really wanted Membu, I think trading back and sitting at 10 and watching this unfold works perfectly in their eyes.
Yeah.
But now you got the 49ers who come on the clock. And again, a team that needs so much to fix maybe looks down, but I think they kind of just want to look at who's here.
I think they just pick whoever's left, honestly, in their respective field. I mean, Will Johnson is currently sitting here for the Niners, and
they
really need a corner.
You really do like Will Johnson. I've seen Barron also being a potential pick for the 49ers. I think a lot of people think he fits kind of what they want to do, but I do honestly like Will Johnson a little bit more to the 49ers. But to be fair, I said the same thing about them taking Cooper DeJean last year, and they didn't. So who knows? Maybe I'm off, but I like Will Johnson.
The smart move would be to take Will Johnson here if he falls this far.
I like Will Johnson.
Yeah.
So I can side with you there.
All right.
We are on to the Cowboys, who
they pick Shedeur Sanders.
As funny as that would be, I don't think that's going to be the move they take.
It's the Cowboys.
I think there's a lot of places they could look. And honestly, I also think they're a team that could potentially move down.
Yeah, especially if they need positions like running backs or edges. They definitely need to prioritize those two positions, I think, in my opinion.
But again, I think the Cowboys also might just strike out on trade downs and might just stay. Because honestly, what pressure is there for anyone to trade up? It's a two-sided streak, and I don't think, unless it's the Colts moving up for Warren or maybe another weapon. Honestly, I just think Warren. I don't feel like anyone needs to, and draft day will probably prove me wrong, but
yeah,
honestly, I think they might be stuck sitting here for a pick. So Cowboys, without anyone really fielding a pick, what do you see here? And maybe they do start that edge run. I know Booker
provides a sense of urgency for certain teams. Do you think they'll?
Honestly,
Stewart.
I still think first round for them is edge or receiver.
Yeah.
Well, as a pure edge, I think after losing DeMarcus Lawrence, I think Shamar Stewart could absolutely fit for them.
Mm-hmm.
So we could see Shamar Stewart going here at 12.
Okay. Saints
come on, and
they could take Tyler Warren.
I think this is Tyler Warren or Jahad Campbell, and this is exactly what
Tyler Warren's just kind of sitting here. I kind of like Tyler Warren going to the Saints.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's 1 or 2, and I think both are special players, and I think this is what the Colts are concerned about. I think you see this going 2 ways, but I think an offensive piece is almost
Inevitable.
inevitable.
Because they've desperately needed help on that offense.
And if you're looking at offensive weapons, if it wasn't McMillan, I think this is the next best bet for them. So I think Warren is the right move here for them.
Okay.
So they're going to take Warren. And then Colts, I mean, maybe they still go Loveland.
I mean, he is there. They do need a tight end. And I think Loveland might be of help.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're in a situation where it's like, we'll take Loveland if he's there, but we really want Warren, which I think will push them to make a move. But I think with that being the case, I think Loveland does go here.
Yeah.
So
I don't see anybody else getting picked by the Colts right now because they've always wanted that tight end.
Yeah, and then that just leaves them. It's either that or a move down. Maybe they go Booker again. He's a guard. Just it isn't a pressing need for most teams, but is a potential option. But I think Loveland is the best option.
Yeah.
After you admit it's a bummer, but you're still okay. You're still happy taking him.
Yeah, Loveland's still good.
And here's where we get to the Falcons, where I think I honestly see this as edge or Malachi Starks. And knowing the Falcons, I can't trust them to take an edge.
No.
And I am concerned that they're
going to take Malachi.
And Malachi Starks, again, is still a great pick, but they need edge so desperately.
They don't listen.
So
you didn't need Penix.
The question is, do they actually stick and pick the edge that they should and kind of continue this run of edge, or do they look at Malachi Starks and go, we can't pass this guy up?
Do we give him the benefit of the doubt, or do we?
I think eventually they will break the trend.
Yeah. Whether it be this year or next year, they're going to have to draft the edge. Do you want to say for the sake of this, maybe they do take an edge here?
I think
one?
Which edge?
Thinking.
Oh, so this is, again, I really like Mike Green, and the boards have showed it as he's actually risen from he was fringe first round to now middle of the first round.
Yeah,
on the board.
I did see that. Good for him.
And that's I love him as a prospect, but I'm trying to think of, if you're the Falcons, how you look at the difference between him and Mykal Williams. And
I don't know. I mean, I can see the Falcons taking Mike Green, but
I almost feel like, and again,
Georgia Boy is just sitting there. So
Georgia Boy is sitting there, and also, if you notice, James Pierce has fallen down a bit, and a lot of his stuff comes down to weight concerns. But he does have a level of explosiveness that I think could also pay off really well for the Falcons.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of leaning towards James Pierce.
I'm not opposed to that.
He's got that level of explosiveness. I think they've needed something, and there's weight concerns, but I think they look past that, especially as a team that hasn't picked an edge in the first round. I think you kind of just take the guy who potentially has a lot of upside, and you go with I kind of like Pierce of the potential options here for the Falcons.
Yeah,
I think logically,
yeah. I mean, I'm not opposed to Pierce either. If it wasn't Pierce, it'd probably be Mykal Williams, just knowing how Atlanta goes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can see Pierce. I don't know. It's just PTSD with the Falcons. So
it's a distrust, but I think
they can do it.
Often, I don't think they're intentionally doing it, so I think at some point they will make the move for edge.
They did have Arthur Smith there for a long time, so
they did, but the bad man is gone. So if you're good with it, I feel like James Pierce here.
Sure. Let's give it a shot.
All right, so we got James Pierce, and this is what I meant by a 3-team run because I think the Cardinals also look at edge here.
Mm-hmm. That's what I was thinking about earlier. Because once one of them goes, all of them go, and I think if you're the Bengals here, this is what probably the biggest concern was when they were going to get their edge or who they were going to get. I don't think I think all these edges are great. I don't think, like, obviously there's strengths and weaknesses to each one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I think for the Bengals at this point, especially with how we've done this draft, I think they just take the best edge that's left for them, especially if Arizona just picks up an edge right here.
I mean,
This is based off what we have right now.
a lot of reasons why I don't think the Bengals will move is because I think there are so many talented defensive players, and even if it's not an edge, all the edges go. They still, like, if Cardinals take edge here, Malachi Starks is still available.
He is sitting right there, so
Barron is still available.
And I was only thinking just edge, so
I think there's so many options for the Bengals, and there's so much need that you can kind of sit unless you have someone who you think stands out way more than the others.
Yes.
I don't think you need to move up, and I think the only one it's a deep edge class, so I think you can sit. And again, other positions as well. The defensive prospects this year are great. So I think Bengals are fine sitting. Cardinals, you come on the board and you look at who potentially is your favorite. Mike Green, we've talked about. He's one of my favorite prospects. He's also kind of on the smaller side, with the concern of going against guys who are, upwards of like
a bit bigger,
300 pounds, and he's only 250.
Yeah, he's 6'3" as well. Not that much taller than I am. Only by a couple inches.
Now, the thing that I look at here is the safe option is Michael Williams.
Yeah, that would be the safe option.
He's got a little bit more size. He runs a base 4-3, which is kind of what that Jonathan Gannon defense is with that typical just four-man rush. I think Michael Williams fits that a little bit more.
Yeah, he's definitely more built for that.
And I think it's interesting because, again, I think Mike Green has the potential to be top 10 worthy in talent if he can take that step in the NFL. But I think there's also going to be some concerns with because, again, very polished guy, but it's just, I think there's some concerns. He's not as explosive as some guys. He's a little bit lighter weight. I think the Cardinals here maybe view Michael Williams as a little bit more serviceable for them.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
So, Michael Williams off to the Cardinals, and
Goodbye.
Now we have the Bengals, who, yes, you didn't get you didn't have all of the options for edge as Stewart, Pearson, Williams are off the board now, but you can still go. You still have options at pretty much any position. Mm-hmm. Mike Green, Malachi Starks, Derek Harmon, Evan Worry, Barron, Campbell. Like, it's such a deep class. Even Nolan, who's had some lift. And it's kind of just who do you deem the best fit?
Yeah.
I feel like you're going to say this. I would love Mike Green to go wherever.
Yeah.
The Bengals tend to like a little bit bigger edges, though. Yeah. And potentially, I know that not a lot of people are talking about them. They did pick up Myles Murphy a couple of years ago. If they managed to keep Trey Hendrickson, put Myles Murphy opposite of him, that's their typical D-line, or that's their typical edges for them.
Yeah.
So they might sit and go someone who's a little bit more of a game changer. And I think the best game changer I think there's three. Neither of them are edge. And I think it's Starks, Barron, and Campbell are the three I have picked out as the best game changers for them.
I think Starks would do wonders for the Bengals.
I know you do like Starks, so we could definitely go Starks here.
I mean, unless you have an opposition to that one.
No, I've just been like considering like trades and stuff.
I don't think the Bengals would need an urgency to move down at this point.
No, I think the last team to have potentially traded down recently it would have been maybe the Colts, but
Yeah.
no, I think
see
I think the Bengals here. I think you are perfectly happy taking Malachi Starks.
Yeah. Any
And-
game changer would help.
And then the Seahawks.
Seahawks.
You got to sit here and
Wait.
watch the next set of O linemen come to you, and the question is,
Who do you choose?
do you go? And Zabel's been rising a bit, and again, he's got that versatility to be inside and outside. You can move him around, but I think this is between Booker and Simmons.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you there.
Linemen have kind of been hush hush for what 8-9 picks.
Yeah.
So I think there's not a lot of stress for them to hold that spot, and I think with so much, and I think it comes down Packers and Vikings probably looking for two different things, but both trying to get up and beat the Buccaneers for a key player.
Yeah.
I want to say the Packers need it more, which is why I'm tempted to say the Packers, but I also feel like the Vikings are the more aggressive team.
Yeah, that's
I
more likely.
I still think it's the Packers, but especially with Malachi Starks going, I think the Vikings are a little bit more pressed. I don't know. I could go between the two though.
Packers with the Seahawks makes the most sense, I think.
So Packers move up. They get their choice of an edge because I think it's edge or corner first round for them. And I think if they were to sit, you would look at Scorton. But I think you move up. I think this is Mike Green.
Yeah.
I mean, with the way he's fallen, I think it's an aggressive move for the Packers here. But I think if they're willing to make a move like this, I think this could do numbers if he turns out well. So I'd say Mike Green here if you make that move. Buccaneers come on the clock, and I mean, sucks you missed out on Mike Green, but you're also sitting, like you said, they're still technically kind of sitting pretty because they have their choice. Who's the best guy here for the Buccaneers? I think it's one of two guys, and I mentioned them earlier as far as the playmakers for the Bengals, and I think that's Barron and Campbell. And
Yeah.
I feel like you love Campbell as the Buccaneers. Again, a little bit more of that versatile type where he can move around. You can pair him with Levante David. I think I just think he'd be a lot of fun
along Levante David.
he gets to learn with Levante David for a year before kind of taking over. And again, he can shift down to that edge, which like when you have a need everywhere on the defense, someone who can play the most positions is,
And he would be that person to do that.
he can play the most, out of
Indeed.
the available options. So
So
Campbell
Todd Campbell to the
and
Buccaneers.
Broncos come on, and I think this is. I still think it's a weapon.
Yeah, they take a weapon here, and I think it's Golden. I like. I'm
back and forth. A lot of people have them taking Hampton. A lot of people like Peyton going out and getting that bigger like downhill running or downhill style running back. Yeah, I'm stick with my good
I'm okay with
Hampton.
Hampton.
Yeah,
Him
I mean
running back move.
I think the running back move, and again, a lot of people really like him there.
It's fair. Stillers, Sanders. That's the only other team that need a quarterback.
And that's the thing is you don't think he's gonna fall that far until all of these picks happen, and you're like he's still there.
If the top three don't pick Shador, he's going to the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, especially with if there's no decision with Rodgers, you might throw him in, and he might sit a year under Rodgers as well.
We'll see.
I think it kind of fits. with the Steelers. I think it fits Steelers pretty well, but I think Sanders is absolutely someone who could fall, and it's not necessarily against anything against him, but I do see his ceiling being a little bit lower, but he's a little bit higher. He has more starting potential right now.
Yeah.
So I think Sanders. I think this is honestly, it just makes sense to me.
Yeah. He'll be good. He'll be good enough.
But yeah, if you're the Steelers here, this is easy Sanders.
Chargers. They do. I guess they do need to boost the wide receiver room. Tackles on the defensive side wouldn't be bad.
I still see this as a weapon.
Yeah, I mean, Golden's just sitting here. I mean, there's also
There's
the
Golden.
next
and
weapon
there's
is Ikbuka, and Burden.
hard to say, but I think Golden is a good pick for them. So I would agree Golden, especially with him falling. I still think he's slightly higher. I think he's a slightly higher echelon than Egbuka and Burden.
Yeah.
But I think Egbuka is kind of just like right between those two. So I do like Golden here, though.
And looky here, we got the Seahawks.
Yep. Which it does bring up an interesting point because again, Booker is still here, although so is Egbuka, who paired with JSN could really boost the receiver room. I do feel like it's still Booker.
Yeah. I don't think they go. Like, as much as that would be cool.
I could see it as a very
From what we have, it's possible, yes.
a very possible option. I think they still prioritize,
They need to fix their line.
especially again because you know that it's going to start going towards the end here. So I think you take Booker here. If you're the Seahawks, Vikings come on the board. I think it's Emin Warrior Barron boost up because their defensive backs need a boost. Emin Warrior, I really like.
Yeah, I like Evan Warrior here.
I like him to the Vikings.
Him specifically to the Vikings makes the most sense in my opinion.
Barron, again, someone who is potentially cornerback 2 in this draft. Like him falling this far, it could be either, but I still think Emin Warrior is kind of a favorite for.
And also, Emin Warrior has more of a quote unquote linebacker build, anyways, so he has power.
He just has so much athleticism. He did so well at the combine. I think that's what gives him a little bit of lift, and it might give him more lift than even here. He might go much higher.
He might even go higher, depending on the team.
But Emin Warrior, Texans, I really love them taking Simmons. I think they're a desperate need of a new tackle. You're desperate enough to take that shot in the dark at Simmons. Even with the injury concerns, I think he does a number. I don't think Zabel's kind of that appeal for them. So I think Simmons, I love Simmons to the Texans as a pick.
Simmons works well. Rams, I mean, linebackers, cornerbacks. Barron's sitting here.
I think you stick because you're going to see probably a lot of defensive pieces go here. Mm-hmm. So I think you stick and take just who you think the best guy is. And as much as I don't feel like he fits them as much, I still think Barron is just their best option.
Yeah, I mean he's going to do wonders. I just don't know if they would take that risk. But yeah, I mean, we can take Barron here for Rams.
Yeah.
Makes sense, I guess. Now we get to the Ravens. Who is left for you guys?
I mean, this is an interesting piece.
Zabel,
Scorton, Zabel are still available. I wouldn't hate Egbuka here. Part of me really wants one of those edges, but unless we move up or take Scorton, who again I'm not super high on, as of right now at least. We'll see how things change in the coming weeks. I think Nolan though is just best player available. Lions here, you're looking. I think you still eye edge. I think it
Gordon is probably your best option right here because I don't think. I mean, I'm not going to try and pronounce it. Donovan Izarukwa. I don't know. But Gordon is probably the best edge currently right now.
Yeah,
I don't think Donovan's quite up there yet.
I think it's between those two as far as like they're kind of like the last ones to pick between. But I would probably lean towards Gordon because I think Gordon is more. I think he'd fit better.
He's more defined.
Although I can see. I'll stick with Gordon. I feel like it's not as much of a Lions pick as an edge.
But what else do you pick here? That's the other thing. So.
The other edge is I think it's if it's not edge here, it's definitely a trade down for them because they have other needs, but I don't think they're as pressing as edge.
No.
So Scorton, Commanders come on and
edge, cornerback, safety, linebacker, mostly defense.
Yeah, they could still even look at interior guys, and I think Harmon, again, like they addressed it,
with free agency and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, but I still think
I think having a young guy on there would help a little bit.
Pairing him with Kinlaw and Theron Payne would really help. And again, they could look like at Egbuka. It's just going to be best guy available for them. They're in such a pretty situation.
I think they go ahead and take Harmon here because I like having Harmon being able to work around some of the guys who've been there for a while.
Yeah,
and get some experience, and I think that'd be a good situation for him. So
yeah, and.
The Bills.
So Harmon, and here's something that I've been kind of eyeing, and I think it is, I don't know where, but I think it is a high potential option. And I think with how the board, especially like all of these 4 defensive players going right before the Bills, who kind of just, I mean, sure, Egbuka's there, but I think you feel confident in the idea of what you have. I think they potentially move down and out of the first round. And I think somebody moves up here to...
Who do you think?
Well, I'll tell you who, and that'll kind of narrow it down a bit. Jackson Dart. He's been a high rise into the first round kind of guy.
Okay.
And obviously, it being Jackson Dart kind of limits who, because obviously not anyone is going to trade up here. It could be someone like the Giants to jump the Browns at the beginning of the second. I think the Saints could also look at trading up for Jackson Dart. I think the teams who could.
Yeah, Saints would do it.
I think it would be Saints, Raiders, and Giants, and I think Raiders are more okay staying.
I think it's going to be the Saints.
You think it's going to be the Saints, not the Giants?
I think it's going to be the Saints, yeah.
Okay. So Bills trade out of the first round, Saints come back in, and they're someone who they've been projected to make a move for quarterback.
Yes.
In many mock drafts.
Oh yeah.
And I think this is
where they.
I think this is a good move for them.
Yeah.
And they go out, and I just think you pick up Jackson Dart. You get an exciting first round. I mean, you come out of it with you trade back earlier, so you get Tyler Warren and Jackson Dart.
Yeah, that's a good first round for them.
I think Kellen Moore's excited if you have that.
That's the other thing. It was with Kellen Moore, he wants more offense, so you gotta give him what he wants.
You get Jackson Dart.
So Chiefs need O-line or D-line?
O-line, D-line, I think safety or like a defensive back could also go and work numbers for them, but I think with what's here. You could also look at receiver.
They
I
don't-
think Zabel's still the guy. I think he's
probably going to be picked up by them.
It's-
I don't think there's anything else disputing that, especially with how they've lost pieces on their line so far this offseason. They need to revamp that line because Mahomes was dying in that Super Bowl.
Yeah, and you have a guy who can move around. I think that's going to help him a lot. In case he can play it inside and replace Thuney, or he can push him outside to tackle. He's got that versatility. And when you have a team who struggled, if he can develop, you can match him up against your biggest threat, regardless.
Yeah.
You can move him anywhere. So I like Zabel here.
Okay.
And then
The final pick of the first round, we got the Eagles.
Eagles.
Who would they pick?
Honestly, I still like the idea of them going D-line somewhere.
I was about to say they need to fix a little bit on the defensive side.
It's just best player available, and
I think, yeah,
I think Williams is a very good
I like
option.
I like Williams. I think pairing those three, Carter, Williams, and I cannot remember his name. Help me, please. Davis. Thank you. Pairing those three together, just not as scary as the line from this last year, but still freaking scary.
Yeah, I think Tyreek Williams replaces Milton Williams pretty well.
Indeed.
And that'll be the final pick of the first round.
We incorporated trades. We
did incorporate trades.
And they actually look somewhat different. They actually look somewhat nice. Like it wasn't this one we actually, not that we didn't think the first one. It was with trades we were able to think better.
I think it was
Clearly
a little bit more of a logical draft. And I know there are some things that aren't gonna seem like they make a lot of sense. Again, Walker, that's kind of his ceiling at 8.
Yes, he's not.
Dolphins
going
trade
higher
up
than
to
that.
take Banks over Campbell, which would be like, I think it could happen.
Literally anything can happen, and
Bears
these are
trading
all
up for
possible.
Genty. Like there's moves, and I think this is a reasonable amount of moves too for a draft. I think because it's not usually crazy, but I think this is a pretty solid. I think it's pretty solid.
I like it. This is a lot better than our first one.
Yeah, first one was sloppy.
Well, then we also didn't incorporate trades because we were just kind of like, we'll just do best available. Like, all right, let's do it, I guess. But
Anyways, here we go. Mock draft 2.0
a lot better
with trades.
with trades.
Yeah, just all
The
caps.
like the neon lights with trades. But yeah, I mean, obviously, these are all hypotheticals. I'd say about 60% of these would probably happen in real life.
Definitely could.
Obviously, that 60% is all depending on whatever the heck everyone else does, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm specifically looking at the Browns right now. Because
Yeah,
I know for a fact they're going to do something stupid, or it's the Giants. One of those two. Titans, I'm not super concerned about.
The first 3 is what will dictate a lot of how this draft goes,
Yeah,
because
I don't like it, but it's how it works.
yeah, it's it'll be interesting, but that is all we have for this video.
Yes.
Thank you so much for watching Mock Draft 2.0 with trades. We look forward to the next mock draft,
Yes.
and obviously, again, the real draft. But until then,
Stay up. I swim.
bye.
I swim. Wait.